Broadcasting live from deep within dark depths, it's Tap Tap Concede.
Hooray! Woo! It's Tap Tap Concede.
I think there's a 2020 down here.
Oh my god.
It's okay, he's frozen.
I cast Vampire Hexmage.
No! Here comes Thespian Stage.
Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Tap Tap Concede. I am James. I am one of your Tap Tap Conceders. I don't know what I'm talking about. Not the usual crew this week. I have a bunch of
the unusual crew
weirdos with me.
I was going to go with upgrades, but sure.
Strictly better. Still dies to Doomblade though. Who are you guys?
Sorry. I thought
introduce yourself.
I thought this was Feed Dump for a second, and I was like, oh shit, we didn't come up with a nickname. I'm Alex.
I'm Serge.
There
Hi.
we go. And we're going to talk about Highlander today. We're going to talk about Dragons of Tarkir and some of those cards that would maybe go in your Highlanders decks.
Oh, man.
And just Highlander decks in general. But first, we have to crack a pack. And we have our giant stack of cards.
We should let Serge roll this one.
Right here. Oh, I'll let Serge roll the dice.
I really hope we get Ice Age and we actually get Dark Depths.
That would be legit
spicy.
incredible. All right, here we go.
One time, no whammy. Hey, natural 20!
Natural 20. We are opening a pack of Mirrodin.
Ooh.
OG Mirrodin.
There could be some good stuff in here.
There could be some good stuff
And we've got
here.
the Pentavis on the cover.
It's going to be Pentavis.
No name on the
Classic
back, but I'm pretty sure this came from somebody. So if you gave us a pack of Mirrodin in the past, thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right. First things first. Predator Strike. 1 in a green for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn.
Seems fine.
Seems fine.
It's like a decent combat trick.
Yeah, it seems like it's obviously more offensive combat trick, but it's just as good on the defense. You know, the trample's not as bad, but
I mean, 1 colorless extra over giant growth gets you trample, which is
pretty sweet.
Good.
That's a good combat trick.
That's a good combat trick.
Would play.
Moriok Scavenger.
What?
3 and a black for a 2/3 human rogue. When Moriok Scavenger comes into play, you may return target artifact creature card from your graveyard to your hands.
This is a really cool set for all the
it's like
artifacts
in this block, maybe this guy's basically just Gravedigger with 3 extra toughness.
Yeah.
And a little more narrow, so...
You still play him.
He specifically has to be an artifact.
Yes.
Oh, he's a
not just artifact. Oh,
yeah.
If it was actually just like any artifact, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next up is the Great Furnace.
Oh, yeah.
Snap.
Artifact land.
Yeah.
Simply tap to add a red to your mana pool.
This was one of the cards was this the one that was emergency banned? No, that was this is banned in Modern.
Yeah,
the whole
of
set,
these except for the colorless one. They're all banned.
Yeah, they're all banned because Affinity's too good otherwise.
Yeah.
I think it was Skull Clamp that was emergency banned in the middle of like a tournament season, I think.
In the middle of a tournament?
Well, maybe not in the middle of a tournament, but they were like, oh, every single deck, no matter what, is playing copies of this card.
Well, they had the one black mana creature. Whenever an artifact dies, your opponent loses a life, and that thing got banned
original
pretty quick,
Affinity
too.
was pretty redonkulous.
Yeah.
Just like play your hand for free, sack everything, dome you for $1 million. So
you're gonna love this next card, Alex.
what is it?
Next card.
You're gonna love it.
Bone Splinter's ready. Bone Splinter.
Oh, this one's so
this
good.
This card is
Bone
super
Splitter.
good.
Oh, Bone Splitter.
1 colorless artifact. It's equipment. Equips for 1 target creature or equipped creature gets +2/+0.
So good.
It's
This is
so good.
one of the best pieces of equipment ever printed.
It's
like not even kidding.
completely
It's
insane.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
One of the best commons ever
it
printed.
was reprinted in Modern Masters.
Yep.
It's a powerhouse in almost any limited format.
Well,
and it's just so good.
Here's the thing. This was the first set that they printed equipment in, and they hadn't quite figured out the power level because they fixed this card a couple times in quotations. They did, was it something machete from Zendikar? Trusty Machete?
Yeah.
Which is the same card almost, but it casts for 1.
3 to equip or something.
It's 2 colorless to equip and gives the creature +2/+1. So it's like a little bit slower.
They've
and
got
not as
Dark
good.
Steel Axe as well,
Yeah.
which is the same but slightly worse, but also indestructible as the
Which was
upside.
what did Butcher's Cleaver do? Was that was plus
That
3
was-
It was like-
plus so?
No,
And
it
you
gives,
got lifelink. It was +3/+0 lifelink.
but only if it's a human. Or
No. That's a different. When you're thinking,
Oh yeah, the silver inlaid dagger.
Butcher's Cleaver was I think 3 to cast, 3 to equip, +3/+0 and lifelink. Was Butcher's Cleaver from Innistrad
Yeah.
block.
And it's lifelink into the human.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Yeah,
and it was-
there's a
human
bunch of
clause.
human.
It was also
clauses.
uncommon, but all right. Next up, Sky Hunter Patrol. I like this card a lot too. 2 white for a 2/3 flying cat knight. First strike.
Oh,
That's pretty solid.
Yeah,
yeah.
super solid
It's like
card.
nothing fancy, just a
Does Kathleen know about this card?
French
Oh,
vanilla.
absolutely.
Okay. French vanilla.
It's a French vanilla.
It's a French vanilla. Well, it's
Is that a thing?
It's
that it is?
fancy. Don't.
It's very plain, but still fancy. It is also white.
It's
Yep.
French vanilla. It's got that little hint of hazelnut.
Next up, Mirror Enforcer.
Yes.
Whoa.
The 7
this
drop
is just-
4/4 mirror, which has affinity for artifacts.
Love.
So
affinity.
This
cast
guy-
for 1 less for each artifact you control. So, for instance, if you went turn 1 Great Furnace,
Bone Splitter.
Bone
Yeah,
Splitter,
Great
this
Furnace,
would-
Bone Splitter, Ornithopter, Springleaf Drama or something? Or something else to
Springleaf
cast for
Drum
0?
No, it costs 1.
Yeah.
Frogmite, this guy.
Oh, Frogmite.
Pass.
Yeah. He's super good. Next up, Override. 2 and a blue for an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each artifact you control. Obviously, in the blue heavy affinity deck, it's super good, right? Like, just counter
it's
things.
like a
and-
soft counter in limited for this block.
Yeah.
It seems pretty bad otherwise.
Yeah, I don't think it would see play in any
No.
sort of constructed format. Wormskin Forger. 5 green for a 2/2.
Wait, what?
Okay.
You guys
What
on
does
board
it,
yet?
What does it do?
Seven mana.
7 mana for a bear.
Okay.
It's Elf
Do you get
Warrior.
to time walk?
When it enters when it comes into play, distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures.
Okay, that's
So it
no.
could be a 5/5 for 7 if you wanted,
that's still really bad.
which is still terrible. But you don't think 3 +1/+1 counters anywhere you want is worth 7 mana and a bear?
No, it's got cool art though.
It does have cool art,
Does it?
but
It's like I got some +1s for you. They're here.
What
in my
is
sword.
what is even happening in this?
Well, she's crouching.
Did
ready.
she cut down that tree?
Sure. It's full of +1/+1 counters.
all right,
What
moving
you got
on.
next?
It takes 3 weeks for a patrol of hunters to down a slagworm. It takes just as long to make a single cut in its hide.
Wow, all right, deep. Oh, here you go. Here's a 0-drop artifact for you. Welding Jar.
Nice.
Oh,
Oh, good.
baby
Sacrifice
girl.
Welding Jar. Regenerate target artifact.
Yeah. God, I
This
love
is
this set.
this is like we're 3/4 of the way to like
A deck
an
in
affinity
Highlander.
deck.
Yeah, basically. Next up, Omega Mirror. 2 colorless for a 1/2 mirror. That's it.
Just vanilla mirror doesn't tap
Well, it
for
has-
mana or
it
anything?
has the
Doesn't
mirror
do
subtype,
anything.
so-
It has 6 words on it. Last to charge, last to fall.
What?
That's its flavor text.
Okay, I'd like to see this guy block Emrakul.
Oh, it can't. Emrakul flies.
Yeah.
Oh, jump it.
Next up, Disarm. 1 blue for an instant. Unattach all equipment from target creature. That seems in a equipment heavy format like it could be kind of a huge blowout.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe. They're
if,
just like
if they have like the Bone Splitter and something else
they're
on their
dual-wielding
creature,
swords or something.
Yeah, and it's just like swinging. It's just like disarm, block, have fun.
Wouldn't you rather just have unsummon?
yeah.
Well, yes, I would, but that's not the card that is given to
Okay,
me right
okay,
now.
right.
Yes, I obviously would rather. All right, next up is another artifact, Talisman of Unity.
Oh, these are
So
this
good.
cycle
Really,
is
really
really
good.
good.
Yep.
This
So
gets played in Highlander all the
Some of
time.
the best stone. mana
2-drop
stones they've
artifact, tap to add 1 colorless to your mana pool, or tap to add a green or white mana to your mana pool. It deals 1 damage to you.
So almost all of the 2-drop rocks are really playable.
Yeah.
And like this one ramps you and fixes you, and you don't have to take pain from it. It's sort of
Yeah.
like 2 mana for a pain land.
Yeah.
I wish they completed the color cycle. I think they only have the
Yeah.
allied colors on it, which is too bad. So there's only 5 available.
Right.
Well, I mean, someday maybe we'll get a set of enemy colored
I don't know.
talismans.
What did you return to Ravnica? And they only did 3
Yeah,
mana
I
locks.
don't.
They wouldn't go back to 2.
I'm pretty sure they said they wouldn't do these anymore. So
No, they're probably just too good.
yeah. Next up, Rust Spore Ram.
What?
Is a 4 mana 1/3 artifact creature. When it comes into play, destroy target equipment. That's okay. I mean, if you're up against something that you need to kill, great. But otherwise, you're not excited to play a 4
Like,
mana.
oh, Sword of
1/3.
Fire and Ice.
I don't
Yeah.
think they had the good swords at this point.
Yeah, I don't remember. Were there?
Because the sort of the order of things is they printed Stoneforge Mystic. Everyone was kind of like, there's nothing good. And
But Stoneforge Mystic was after this.
Yeah,
Way
that's
after
what I'm
this.
saying. So I don't think they had any good equipment where you're really worried about this. Like, this was in the era of Bone Splitters. It wasn't till way after that things actually got
You had
scary.
your swords and your Jites and your Batter Skulls.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, last uncommon Leonin Blade Trap.
Blade Trap, you
Yeah,
say.
3 mana artifact. You may play Leonin Blade Trap anytime. You could play an instance. For 2 colorless, it has flash, yeah. For 2 colorless, sacrifice it. Deals 2 damage to each attacking creature without flying.
Oh.
Seems like a pretty harsh blowout.
That's not bad. I mean, 5 mana, 2 damage across the board for all your attackers.
like,
Yeah.
surprise!
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right.
What's our rare?
What's our rare? It's black.
Okay.
It casts for 2 and a black. Any guesses?
I don't know. It might be
I don't
something
know-
terrible.
I don't know the set well enough.
What is
There's a whole lot of text on here, so it's probably terrible.
It's probably
Got
bad.
a lot of work.
Grim Reminder.
Oh.
2 and a black for an instant. Search your library for a non-land card and reveal it. Each opponent who played a card this turn with the same name as that card loses 6 life. Then shuffle the revealed card back into your library.
What?
It's got an activated ability. For 2 black, return Grim Reminder from your graveyard to your hands. Play this ability only during your upkeep.
I don't like it.
Oh, that is just
That's
terrible.
pretty
Cool
dirty.
art.
What?
Super neat art.
Man,
Terrible card.
that's just like it. What? It does nothing.
It does literal
does
nothing.
so nothing.
Yeah, it actually just doesn't.
It's like,
do
let me
anything.
just sideboard in 1 copy of a card that's in your deck that I can't even play on the off chance that I can dome you for 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Archive Trap.
Just
Wh-
play-
What? You triggered my archive
You've got
trap.
5 mana, just play Drain Life. I think it's even in this set.
All right, what are we picking?
Bone Splitter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bone
Bone
Splitter.
Splitter. Yeah. All right, just straight up Blown Splitter.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
Bone Splitter, maybe this patrol guy.
I was gonna say
The Sky Hunter Patrol is very good. So
I don't know how rampy the format is, but Talisman,
Talisman could be very good too.
Talisman's pretty good.
maybe not first pick, but D's.
Yeah, it's like Bone Splitter's super high up there.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
go super aggro. All right, let's talk about
Stuff.
something that Paul wants to say.
I was just going to say, I looked for Bone Splitter. There's also the Bone Splitter Sliver,
Oh yeah.
which I like. I love that the art looks kind of the same as a Bone Splitter.
Oh my god, it does.
totally does.
Oh, the head is shaped
And
like
it gives all slivers +2/+0.
Yeah.
That's
Was that Time Spiral?
yeah.
Yeah,
a
the
cool
time
block.
spiral.
That's
My
absolutely
favorite block.
incredible.
I
That's super
didn't-
good flavor. I love that.
Whoa.
It's the same card.
That's freaking me out.
You know what the slivers did? They just ate a bunch of bone splitters and then grew them as their heads.
Yeah.
That's wild.
All right, guys, let's talk about Highlander. Real
man.
quickly, because, there could very well be new listeners to the podcast this week.
Yeah.
Really quickly, what is Highlander?
What are you looking at me for?
Okay, Highlander is 100 card singleton.
Okay.
Much like Commander, except it has less deck building restrictions. You do not have a commander. You don't have somebody in your zone, and as such, you do not have to restrict yourself when deck building to your commander's colors.
Right.
There is no band list.
Okay.
How we play, we don't have a band list. What I love
Except
about Highlander,
for the only cards banned in the format are reflex cards, anti cards,
Right.
and Shahrazad.
right?
I think.
Yeah. When I say no ban list or anything like that, it's a new format. There isn't a universal set of rules like there is for Commander or a lot of the
Yeah.
other ones. So every community that plays it, and there are quite a few now, it's growing, sort of polices their own community their own way. So the German community has a ban list. They do 100 card singleton with a ban list. The Australian community does 60 card Highlander. and they have a banned list.
Those crazy Australians.
yeah. And we've
60
opted-
cards.
Our local scene is a 100-card singleton with a points list.
Yeah.
So you can play your Black Lotus or your Moxes or your
It just costs
GTAs
you.
or your Mind Twists.
Oh,
You have 7 points to work with. And
Okay.
there is a list that is curated by our
Council.
Yeah. And they assess cards and see what's, problematic and warping the format, and they assign points or remove points as is appropriate. And so you can build your deck around it. In fact, while you're talking, I'm gonna pull the points out of my deck.
So I'm curious,
To give you an
just to talk a little bit more about Highlander and how it came to sort of, because it's huge in Victoria.
Yeah.
Especially at our local game store. Like it's the most popular format, is it not? Like in terms
I mean,
of
I don't know. I think standard is still huge. I mean,
Yeah.
draft and stuff like that. But as far my sales pitch is, it's the format that every judge in Victoria plays. And I don't know how much of a sales pitch that is for other people, but I think that's pretty cool.
that's cool. And so you say it's growing.
Yep.
Do you see anybody adopting the system that you guys are using, or
I sure hope so.
is it are people more going for the ban list that the Germans are using, or the 60 card? So does Australia also have a ban list? Do they work off the same ban list?
Yeah, and since they're all fairly small communities, we always reference each other. So our original points list was founded on their banned list.
Right.
Or you look at the legacy restricted list and stuff like that. And we're always whenever you go to build a new deck, you'll do a Google search and you'll hit their stuff, because Highlander is pretty broad. And actually, when we go back to things growing, if you go to tappedout.net for deck building, they now have a Highlander column. You can register decks as such.
Sweet.
So we always share information. I mean, obviously we like ours because that's where we play.
Right.
But I don't know if there's any one particular one that's too big. Are people using our points list? Maybe. Yeah.
I certainly hope people try it, because I think this format's really, really great. It's it's competitive in the way that Legacy sort of is, but it's also a brewer's format.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that's viable, and
Yeah.
so many unexplored cards, because Legacy to a certain extent it's not a solved format, but there are a lot of really hard archetypes that exist that you want to be playing within, and there's a little bit of options for sideboarding and stuff like that. But
do you feel that the format is accessible enough to people? Do you need to be spending hundreds of dollars to be able to play at sort of a
you don't
competitive
have
level?
It may constrain some of your deck building options, but you don't need a ton of money to play this format.
Yeah.
There's lots of options. It's you can play.
The classic list is mono, red, or goblins.
Right.
Are top tier lists in Highlander. You if your deck doesn't have an answer for those, you have a hard time.
Yeah, but even beyond mono red goblins, there's mono black is not too hard to put together. Blue green you can make cheap. Blue red you can make cheap. Mono white is good. There's a couple of
the mana base.
Yeah.
But
That's the
with
tricky
fetch
part.
lands being reprinted, they get quite cheap. We have a wonderful asset in the community, which is the Canadian Highlander website and Facebook stuff. And some guys have been producing a lot of content for that, including budget deck lists. If you want to get in, here's
cool.
budget control, here's budget aggro.
Nice.
And it's great that they're taking the time to do that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. So Dragons of Tarkir just came out.
Yeah.
Are there any cards that stand out to you guys? I mean, I guess the whole block. I don't know when the last time you guys did a Highlander sort of centric episode of Tap Tap Concede with
It's
each
been a
other.
while.
I feel like it's been a while. So
I tend to assess new cards based on whether or not I would play them in Highlander, and
Yeah.
I have 4 cards here from the block.
yeah. So I mean, let's
I've
talk about the
included.
block as a whole. Let's not just.
Yeah.
We won't talk just about dragons, but cons and
Yeah.
Fate Reforged as well.
Yeah.
So 4 cards, Alex, that are currently in your deck. Just really quickly, what are you playing? What's your deck?
I'm playing Mardu mid-range in Highlander right now.
That is absolutely what I would want to play.
Right?
Hell yeah, Mark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm so glad to have this deck together again. This is the 3rd time I've built this deck. The first 2 times I was forced to sell my list because I needed money.
Right.
This time I'm hoping to keep it because it's. I love this list. I love these cards, and it's in a spot that I really, really like it, and I just want to hone it right down to its maximum power level and just have a time, because I love playing this deck. It's so fun.
Sweet.
So new inclusions, just this last year, I guess. Soren, Solemn Visitor.
He's so sad.
He's the second 4-drop in that exact mana
second
cost
hybrid Soren.
of Soren. Butcher of the Horde, which is like a really recent addition.
And that card is,
This thing's bananas.
That card was a complete and utter bomb in limited. I don't think it ever saw much in the way of standard play,
This thing's
Yeah.
bonkers.
but it's completely insane.
Yeah, Monastery Mentor,
Yeah,
Really
that card is
crazy
completely
good.
insane.
and a card that I just like, I saw this and I was like, I have to put this in a deck, is Call Again's Command. It's like red-black Electrolyze.
I don't even know what this card does.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, yeah, of course, right.
So
Okay. Cool.
starting with Soren, there's 2 Sorens in this deck. This one might be the slightly worse one.
What's your other Soren?
It's the other 4.
the
Soren
other,
one.
the other, yeah.
Because like that, his abilities are, his +1 is make a 1/1 lifelink vampire.
Yep.
His -2 is you get an emblem.
Emblem +1
creatures-
+0.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can do that as many times as you want.
Yep.
This guy is similar but kind of reversed. His +1 is until end of turn, until your next turn. That's the important wording on this.
Yeah.
Creatures you control get +1/+0 and lifelink.
Yeah.
So you can use this defensively.
Yep.
So you like pump all your guys. They just stay back until your next turn. They have +1/+0.
Oh, I never actually read the card.
I know, right? You're just like, oh, it's lame. You
Worst
just like
judge
give them
ever.
this one-time pump, and it doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
What's this dragon bone behind him?
Don't worry about it. His -2 is make a 2/2 black flying vampire token.
Right. So,
And He does something else.
yeah, so I want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
And in Highlander in general, Planeswalker Ultimates, are they a thing?
Occasionally, like I mean,
Occasionally,
it
just
depends
sort of
on
like
on what
maybe.
planeswalker.
I have lost to Super Big Daddy Jace's ultimate a couple
Okay.
times.
That feels bad.
And it feels so bad when you're locked out by a control deck and you're like, all right,
Fate
threat.
Seal, Fate Seal,
Yeah,
Fate Seal.
yeah. Like Fate Seal, land, thanks. Fate Seal, bottom. You're like, threat, counterspell, Fate Seal, land. Like,
Yeah, no, Planeswalker Ultimates do happen from time to time. I mean, it's as real as it is in any other format where
Yeah.
these cards get played.
yeah.
Yeah,
Jace
it's like
the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, that guy
God.
right there.
yeah,
My-
Jace gets ultimated.
My
Lily,
Tameo, ultimate.
yeah, Tameo, Liliana is a good ultimate.
Yeah, 3
Yeah.
mana Lily. Take all their permanents into 2 piles and then choose which one produces more tears.
Yeah, I've never ultimated this guy, but I usually Planeswalkers you usually assess them based on their first 2 abilities.
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
third.
yeah.
Can
absolutely.
can Planeswalker protect self?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
was
he
real
can.
English.
Yeah.
Butcher the Horde. I had someone tell me that this card was trash, and then another person say, like, what are they talking about? This is bonkers. And I was like, oh. And then I looked at it closely. I was like,
No, it's just bonkers. It's
Yeah.
it's 4 mana, 5/4 flying, all upside creature.
Yep.
Its secondary ability is sacrifice another creature. Butcher the Horde gains your choice of vigilance, lifelink, or haste until end of turn.
So I mean,
It's crazy.
You could sacrifice. You play this guy out, and you could sacrifice 3 creatures and just give him all 3. Hey, you wouldn't even have to tap them. That's the best part.
It's a sack outlet. It's good to be able to blow up your own creatures sometimes. It's
Yeah.
just like you've got a bob.
It's just
that
a massive threat in
domed
the
you.
It's just a massive threat in the air
I also
too. And
I did a search for like cost to power ratio for flyers like this. This is the only one that's actually worth playing because the rest have like massive downsides.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Falconwrath Aristocrat would be close.
And I play that too.
Yeah, and,
She's
and-
really good.
Well, it kind of reminds me in similar colors to the old standard deck, the Aristocrats.
There is definitely a little bit of a theme in this deck of that.
Are you familiar with that one?
Yep.
Yeah, just all about synergies of sacking your own creatures and buffing here and draining them there. And,
Yep.
and especially when you've got this sort of token sub theme.
I
going
do
on in
have
your
a
deck.
token sub theme. So Monastery Mentor, which is from what was it, Fate Reforged?
Yep.
So
This
2
card
and a
is
white,
insane.
2/2 with prowess. So whenever you cast a non-creature, and I have lots of non-creature spells, he gets +1/+1. And also, when you do that, you make a 1/1
Yep.
that also has prowess.
Prowess. Yeah. It's the fact that it also has prowess.
It just like makes these guys who every card you play is like a pump spell to them. It's it's pretty great. So there's that guy, and then this thing, which I really love, and I think it's really good, and I harsh 2-for-1
Me.
Surge with it. That was some bad feels. So 1 black-red instant. Choose 2. You get any 2 combination of these 4 abilities. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Target player discards a card at instant speed.
Yep.
Destroy target artifact, or call against command deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So you get Shock, Raven's Crime, Shatter, and Disentomb.
Oh, it's better than Raven's Crime. It's instant speed
Yeah,
hand
it's
attack,
like
which is
nuts.
very rare.
So you're just like, oh, you have 1 card left. It's probably some sort of counter spell. It's just like discard, regrow my guy, or just like just blowing up an artifact and shocking a guy is really sweet.
Yeah.
Or just
It feels like
it's so flexible.
like it feels like cards like this, or like the 2 whatever the stupid like 2 cards in 1.
split cards.
Yeah, the split cards.
Yeah, like-
Right, just
It
for
seems like those
versatility,
kind
yeah.
of cards that get you that 2-for-1 in
Wear
this
tear,
kind of
so
format
good.
seems really good.
Yeah.
Because there's just nothing but good, valuable cards on the board that you just always want to get rid of.
Well, an important thing to note about Highlander is we have no sideboards.
Right.
Even though it's best of 3, we just had a really hard time trying to figure out how to deal with sideboards, so we don't.
Yeah. Do the other formats have sideboards?
Some of them do.
I think some do.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the 60 card Australian one has a
I
sideboard.
could see the 60 card.
And it's like Tiny Leaders, which is growing in popularity.
Yeah.
It has a sideboard, while Commander doesn't. So it
Right.
gets.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that I mean, these are best of 3 formats where Commander normally isn't due
It's-
to
yeah.
time.
So yeah,
much time.
you generally either have decks that carry a lot of different answers, or ones that are just so razor honed that they're all in on one plan.
Yeah.
Like aggro is kind of like that. It's just like I have to go to the face so fast that I don't even think about what you're doing to me.
Right.
Yeah, I don't care about
know.
graveyard hate.
Yeah.
because-
Whereas
yeah.
like something like Esper Control is just like I have your O rings and your kill spells and your counter spells. It's like
Wrap
anything
it
you
all.
throw at me,
Yeah,
I can deal
yeah,
with it.
Yeah.
And my deck is a little bit like that. It carries a whole lot of answers, and then a bunch of ways to find it, which brings us back to our points list.
Yeah, so an important thing to note about the points list, then the general theory behind it, is we point tutors, we point fast mana, because we want to try and keep the format less degenerate,
Right.
and we point value cards, something that we think by itself is too strong.
Okay.
And then so Alex is going to share his points list and tell us the points value out of 7.
Demonic Tutor is 2,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So it's just like look for any card you want
Yeah.
for 2 mana.
Sure.
Very-
And very, very powerful.
Pretty
very
stupid.
powerful.
Tainted Pact, which has been the topic of a little bit of contention as per it being worth 1 point. This one's a weird tutor.
It's a very weird tutor.
It's only kind of good in this format and not a lot of other ones.
What does it say?
So 1 and a black instant. You start revealing cards off the top of your library until you choose to stop, or you hit 2 duplicates.
Oh.
If I flip a
yeah.
swamp and then later flip another swamp, effect's over.
Okay. But that's the only thing.
But if I choose
Yeah.
to finish the effect, the last card you reveal, you put into your hand.
Every other card is exiled,
And in a format where
Interesting.
every card is not the same,
Right.
except for
You
basic
just-
lands.
Except for basic
except for
lands.
basic
Yeah.
lands,
So
you
you-
just drill through your deck until you find something you want and take it.
So you normally see it in 3 color decks.
Interesting.
And they'll only play 6 basic lands. And here's the brilliant part of it: you have 6 basic lands. So say you're Esper, say
Yeah.
you're white, blue, black. They'll have basic island, basic swamp, basic plains, snow-covered
Snow-covered,
basic.
right.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's
the
not
other
the
3
same named
different
card.
names.
So you don't have a single card in your 100 cards that is the same.
Yeah,
So
and
that
it
card
was.
becomes basically, just
like
look at your
Demonic
deck.
Tutor number
it's,
2.
It's basically Super Impulse.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Like
I like that.
dirty black Super Impulse.
But you have to
You must build around it, though.
yeah. Well, not only you have to build around it, but there's a point. There's no going back. Once you've exiled a card,
They're gone forever.
it's
Yeah.
well.
So are you doing that with your deck?
Yep.
So
My
like,
mana base, like I have to add a couple of snow basics because the other problem is that the fewer basics I play, the more vulnerable I am to something like back to basics or like
God.
price of progress.
Okay.
So you sort of have to balance
Yeah,
it.
in the format, there's this. I guess there's 4 cards that punish the greedy mana
Just the
bases.
hosers.
Yeah, back to basics is probably the harshest of all of them.
That card
Okay.
is so backbreaking to me.
Yeah, non-basic lands do not untap. period.
No.
Full
Okay.
stop.
Just done.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you'll have mono blue decks that'll play it, or a blue deck that'll splash something.
Right.
Like I've had it against blue red. It's
Yeah.
like blue black was harsh.
Yeah, the other one is red has most of the non-basic hate. They have Blood
Blood
Moon,
Moon, yeah.
and Magus of the Moon, both of which just turn them into mountains.
Right.
Yeah, all
which is
non-basics are mountains.
useless to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the punishing one, of course, being Price of Progress.
Right.
And for consistency in deck building, a lot of times you have your dual lands, which makes sense, but you have to start getting pretty deep in all your dual lands if you want to fix your base. So you have the original expensive duels. You have your Rav duels. Then you have your core set buddy duels.
Yeah.
Filter lands.
Scry lands, Scar
now.
lands,
Yeah,
Scry
yeah, yeah.
lands.
Reflecting Pool.
The ones that are in standard now, the Pain lands.
Painland. Yep.
So you can end up being pretty deep. I think, Alex, you're playing what? 8 basic lands in your entire
I think
deck?
3, 6, 7 basic lands.
Yeah.
And now you guys,
In this whole setup,
36,
you guys
38.
do something pretty cool with collector's edition cards.
Yeah, to keep
Oh.
costs down and to make it approachable to everyone, you can buy gold borders, championship edition, collector's edition cards.
This was one of my favorite decisions for this format. Is the decision to allow those
Yeah,
promo
That's
sets.
that's smart. Like
We
I
don't
mean,
allow proxies. You have to own something that Wizards has printed.
That's fair, and like I have no problem with that.
So you probably won't be able to see this on camera, but Collector's Edition is a set they printed not too long after Alpha and Beta, I want to say.
It
was-
was after they had is that the championship edition when a deck would win worlds?
That was
they would-
later, yeah.
Okay.
But Collector's Edition is like all the cards from Beta printed exactly the same, but with square borders. And the
Gold back.
the rear borders
Yeah.
are gold, and it has in gold Collector's Edition printed at the back. And these are not legal to play in sanctioned events, except ours. And
Yeah.
it is still official Wizards product, and they have the same feel and dimensions of regular Magic cards.
I have to say though, we are not sanctioned. We are not sanctioned for events.
No.
We are sanctioned casual, and
Yes.
that you'll get your one Planeswalker point when you play in it. But yeah, we need
I'm
to.
surprised you haven't taken like a corner thing to this thing.
No, that's bad. That'll degrade its value, and it's also sort of fraudulent.
Yeah, when people are looking for fraudulent cards, that's something you have to worry about. Is people who will reback a card around the quarters and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
that's true. Yeah,
and
yeah.
and since it is printed, it does have the springiness. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever seen when people are appraising really old cards. You've got the bend test,
Yeah.
and
You
that'll
do that with a Black Lotus, and they're like,
Yeah, well, you have to. I've
Yeah.
seen people do it with Moxen. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're spending hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars on really expensive cards,
You wanna know
need
that it's real.
You need ways to verify it,
Yep.
and that is one of the terrifying ways to check.
Yep.
So
All right,
sorry,
keep
we
going.
keep getting distracted from this points list. Enlightened Tutor,
Yep.
Falls under the theme of
it's
tutors.
just like I play a lot of tutors.
so,
So
1
we're-
point. This
so
is 1
we're-
point versus the 2 point of demonic. So
we're
demonic
now-
2-1-1.
So we're at 4 points.
Yeah,
All right.
Stoneforge Mystic,
Sure. Yeah.
1
Of
point
course.
tutor.
Sure.
Skull Clamp,
Which
kinda
is-
combos.
Well, Skull Clamp being one of those, it's not an acceleration card. It's not a tutor.
It's just
good
value.
It's,
Yeah.
it's crazy value.
Especially in this kind of deck. In the right
Yes.
kind of deck, it's just like draw card, draw
Is
card,
GT
draw card.
points right now?
Yes, GT is also 1 point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally, cards that are fair.
Mind Twist.
Yes, of course.
Discard effects that are fair and balanced. I call this Fox News card.
That's because they're fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced.
Fine.
But I don't feel too bad playing this card because it is a competitive format, and they're throwing points at me as well, so I need to.
They're throwing back to basics at you.
Well, the interesting thing about this format is that like you'd think that having access to all these frightening cards would make the format really busted and warped, but it actually keeps itself sort of in check.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. The observation that I've made, and I talked to Brett Frankson about this,
I love Brett.
was the German format, which has a ban list.
Yep.
They've kind of solved it. Like there's
Right.
there's one deck list that everyone is playing. There's either banned good stuff, or every list is 4-color blood, which is just like all the best cards ever printed.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all you play. Like I saw a tournament where the top 5 lists were like 4C blood, 4C blood, 4C blood, 4C blood, 4C blood, and it's like there's no diversity in the meta. and I think that's bad for the format.
Kind of like
Whereas-
modern Jund. It was just like,
Yeah.
what? Oh, let's splash white for lingering souls. We're
Right.
still Jund.
Yeah. Now, is
Whereas
there
in our local scene, like we have so
Very,
many
very, very
different deck
diverse.
lists. You know, you've got goblins, you've got the rock, somebody's playing eggs, somebody made storm
eggs.
work.
Storm,
you've got,
Storm's a killer in our format, which is amazing.
you know, you've got my deck, you have like blue green sort of tempo, you've got blue green control,
everything. If
tribal
you
stuff.
can dream of it, you can build it in Highlander.
Turboland.
That's me.
Your Turboland is bananas. It's just like
I'm trying.
That's what I mean. Is like it's a real Brewers format. Is you get to play with all the best cards ever printed and build the weirdest, timmiest deck you can think of.
sweet?
So that's really why we like it so much, and it's real fun. A lot of good people in the community, so we enjoy it.
So the ban list in the German things, the example we're talking about is they've banned a lot of combo cards and a lot of the tutors, and I like to think of it as a rock paper scissor analogy. You have combo beats aggro, but control beats combo, and aggro. You know, you have that circle there, but all of a sudden, if you've removed combo and all you have is aggro or control,
Yeah.
one
then-
sort of weeds out the other, and they're like, well, then let's just play the deck that wins.
Right.
And then you don't have a very healthy metagame, and that's what we really strive for. Any way you decide to police your own metagame is diversity.
Cool. So, are there any cards, Serge, that you're excited for that have come out over the last year, either from
Where'd it
Dragons
go?
or from Cons or Fate Reforged?
The card that I am the most excited about, and I have yet to make a deck around, and I really want to, and I can't remember its name, and book, don't let me down.
Do you know the color?
It's a white mana, Myth Realized.
Myth Realized.
That
yeah, okay.
card is so cool.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put it in my deck.
So, real quickly, guys, Myth Realized. Let me just read it out for you here. It is a one white enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a lore counter on Myth Realized.
Yep.
For 2 and a white, put a lore counter on Myth Realized. So,
Yeah.
another way of getting lore counters on there. Then its final ability. 1 white. Until end of turn, Myth Realized becomes a monk avatar creature in addition to its other types and gains this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of lore counters on it. So, why does this card get you excited? What is your thought process? What do you think you can do with this thing?
For so many reasons. It's very, very, very flexible.
Okay.
Which I love. You can put it in a control shell, and then every time you do a draw spell to fix your hand, or every time you counter spell, you've got this threat
Or slam
that's
a Planeswalker
slowly
or something.
ticking up. Yeah, Planeswalker makes it bigger. It survives Wrath of God, which
Right.
if you're a control player, you love, and which is why Planeswalkers are so powerful, is you can sweep the board and have a position afterwards. But not only does this survive Wrath, it gets stronger after Wrath. It's so cool. You could put it in... I mean, I hesitate to call in... Well, I guess Enchantress would be a combo deck, but I don't know if it's going to see if it's going to see play in Legacy Enchantress. For those of you unfamiliar, Enchantress is a archetype where you play a series of Enchantress creatures, the strongest being Argothian Enchantress. And every time you play an enchantment, you get to draw a card. So it'll typically play enchantments like Wild Growth. So 1 green, play an enchantment, draw a card. Now your land taps for 2, play 2 Wild Growths, draw 2 more cards. You've got a ton of mana. And the really strong card in that is a white land called Sarah's Sanctum, which, like that whole block of really, really broken lands, Tolarian Academy being the
They're all
strongest.
busted except the red one that nobody remembers what it does.
Yeah. Sarah's Sanctum, tap to add white mana to your mana pool equal to the number of enchantments you control. So the problem with that deck is, you know, once you get going, it's fine, but you often have a ton of mana. What do you sink your mana into? You can sink it into Myth Realized.
Whoa.
You're like, oh, I've got 15 extra white mana. What am I going to do? I'll give my guy +5/+5. So I might have to build Highlander Enchantress again.
I like it.
And give that a whirl. I might have to build Control again and put that in. I might have to build some type of janky 3-color aggro enchantment with all these great bestow cards they just printed.
Yep.
That's the thing, and this is again why I love Highlander, is you put something like that. It's a puzzle piece, and the combination of things that can go with it are it's endless and it's really exciting.
Sweet.
So that's my number one. Other cards that have been great in Highlander, Tassiger has been bonkers.
Yeah.
I did not expect that guy to be so big.
Tassiger not only has been bonkers in just every format.
Everything.
Like, he's just dominating.
Well, I mean, anything that gets straight into Legacy is like, oh, let's maybe pay attention to this now.
Yeah, but on the surface, he's another Goyf. He's another Tarmogoyf. I think a lot of the times you're casting him for 2 mana, and on average he's a 4/5. Well, Tassiger is always a 4/5, but this is, again, trying to do the rough Goyf to Tassiger comparison. The fact that he also has an additional ability is bonkers. So you could put him in a control deck, you could put him in a mid-range deck for just value, or you can put him in an aggro deck that's filling its bin. The Delve cards in general I've liked a lot, with, of course, Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise being all-stars.
Man...
And
you get the common that gets banned in Modern. It's like it's doing something. They just can't fix Ancestral Recall.
You can't. It's impossible.
They're not addressing the problem that exists with that card. It's like the effect draw 3 cards, undercosted in any way, is always going to be busted.
Always busted. Yeah.
Does it cost 4 mana? Yes or no?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you pay it later. Don't care.
Treasure Cruise, we made it a point.
That doesn't. That's not
and that's one of the.
Well, because Ancestral Recall is like 2 points, right?
3 or 4.
3? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And a lot of people's argument was, with Mind Twist too. There's always been sort of this balance of how powerful is card draw, how powerful is hand attack, and do they scale with each other? And people are like, well, Treasure Cruise is not ancestral. We're like,
yeah, it is.
Well,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
At the point when you would be casting Ancestral, it's Ancestral.
I've seen people turn 1
enough.
Ancestral. Well,
Yeah.
you mold a 6, and you go, turn 1, land,
I feel like
pass,
that's sort of corner case.
end
though.
a turn, Ancestral myself, have 8 cards. Okay, now my mulligan is fixed or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean the island Ancestral, then some garbage is probably pretty keepable. Unless you're just like mental misstep, scoop. I was all in on that Ancestral.
Misdirection, target self.
I had my bonfire misdirected. It felt so bad.
Dude, you misdirected a bonfire once, and
It
you
was
laughed
good.
maniacally.
I know.
You
And
laughed
now-
maniacally.
On the other end, it feels bad.
It feels bad.
I lent him a blue-white tempo deck, and he's like, Serge, get Judge. I'm like, okay. He's like, can I? I'm like, yeah. He's like, ooh.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a very
target
good Alex
player.
impression.
I'm like,
Thank you.
Swerve. Sorry, we get kind of carried away because like Highlander gets into so many wonderful, bizarre game states that are just like so fun and interesting and unique. And that's a lot of what attracts us to the format. Is just like, whoa, I never thought that this would happen.
All right. Speaking of this would happen.
Eh?
Let's wrap it up, but not before we have a little judge's corner with
Uh-oh.
Serge here.
Yeah.
So before the episode started, Serge was talking about a judge call
At the pre-release.
that he had to experience.
This was
And
fun.
it took a little bit of doings.
It took a lot of doings.
So let's set the stage.
Yeah.
The player has
Two players are facing each other.
Yeah.
Player has a creature with prowess.
okay.
And wants to attack and use the combat trick Dance of the Skywise, which is an instant until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes a blue dragon illusion with base power and toughness of 4/4, loses all his abilities and gains flying.
Uh-oh.
But the creature before had prowess.
So,
And now, just to make this even better, the person who made the judge call, also a level 1 judge, was just sitting there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just sitting there and being like,
Wait, how does this work?
yeah. And now, this is great too, because a lot of the times as a judge, when you're playing people, you get these awkward situations of, I could explain to you what happens, but since I'm playing you right now, I don't feel good about trying to explain it. So let's have someone else come in. And so like, Serge, is it a 4/4 or a 5/5? And I'm like, that's a very good question. Let's check the card rules. And then you look at it and nothing.
No.
Like that. What do? And then there's that brief moment where you're like, there's lots of L2s around. Let's see what happens. Oh, they all went for lunch.
It's like, let's puzzle this out.
All right. And then this is one of those fun layers question, which I'm actually not disappointed, but it's kind of frustrating when they put in a rules interaction that is not always super intuitive and stuff like that. Where I don't know if they've been pretty good about stuff like that. Like when they had the gods, they didn't have any flicker effects for devotion and all those questions that would come up. And it's very rare that you have to go that deep into the rules to figure everything out. And so we got out the comp rules. We went down to the state-based effect and layers and figuring everything out. And we found out that yes, it is in fact a 5/5, and we made the call just in time for the L2s to come back and give us an approving nod.
And then be like, yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. And they're like, did you check this? I'm like, yeah, it just took me 10 minutes because I'm not super familiar with exactly what section it would be under.
So now you know.
Yeah.
If you cast something that is going to give a creature a base power and toughness, and that creature had prowess, the prowess...
Or something else that was going to change its power and toughness.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really explain why that would be complicated.
Go for it.
Yeah. So the question in mind being, okay, I have a creature that's power and toughness no longer matters, but on the stack there's this ability that says it's going to get +1/+1.
Yes.
This is trying to set its power and toughness of like what comes first. You have these two effects that are trying to fight each other, and this is where all the confusion came from. Its power and toughness says, no, it's now a 4/4, but is it a 4/4 that also gets +1/+1? Or does that matter? And that's where the conversation went back and forth. But luckily Wizards, in their afterthought, not their foresight, went through and created a list of layers as to when any situation that could be confusing comes up, this is the order in which it's applied. And so you can just kind of check mark, which applies this. Okay, we have our answer.
Paul?
So, and the additional thing with Dance of the Skywise is it says it loses all abilities.
Yeah. that's fun.
So the prowess would disappear from the creature too, right?
Now,
But it's still on the stack,
Now,
isn't it?
luckily,
But it's still on the stack.
prowess triggers when you cast the spell, not when it resolves.
Yeah.
So you cast and there's a +1/+ on the stack. It loses prowess,
After
becomes
a bit-
4/4, and then it gets +1/+.
So if you cast another spell, it doesn't prowess again.
It would not trigger prowess now.
My head hurts.
And it gets a lot of fun with cards like cannot be blocked. Is that when they made that big change? Yeah. So I thought that'd be pretty fun.
Cool. All right, guys. That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
That was a good. I feel like that was actually a good intro to Highlander too. It's been a while since we've done one, so I'm glad.
Do
you
try it
guys-
yourself. Start
Yeah.
your own
Yeah,
local
absolutely.
community, and we have a Facebook page that you can get all the rules and points list.
Make sure
and
to link that and the Highlander website with our podcasts and our deck lists. We also have a weekly metagame where somebody actually goes through and writes down what everyone played, so you
And
can
it's-
see how.
Sweet.
diverse
It's
the
always a
metagame is.
rainbow. There's
Yeah.
just like everything you could imagine just being played. It's sweet.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
well, definitely check it out. We'll put links to all that stuff in the description below and on the forum so you guys can find it. Thank you to everybody who's watching. This podcast, like everything we do, is brought to you by you guys, and we really appreciate it over on patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. The support you guys have showed us so far this year is incredible. If you'd like to be a Patreon, head over to that link that you see right down there below me and hit that pledge button or whatever the button says. I don't actually know. I'm a terrible person. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week on a new episode of Tap Tap Concede.
Goodbye.